Hey there. Welcome back to Subject to Change. This is Jim Woods. I didn't get any negative feedback on the beach, so we're back again on the beach. Welcome back. The sun once again just set. There are actually very few clouds in the sky tonight, though there's a deep orange just below the horizon that's spreading out across the sky, fading into a blue with hints of purple and green in it. The waves are rocking if you hear them. I'll try and reduce that in the editing process, but enjoy them if you hear them. And so, getting into the next episode here, I'm actually quite excited to discuss this concept. I think it's one of the most important. And the episode today we're going to discuss is time. Once again, we're going to try and make this quick and rigorous. And I think the framework we'll work with today about time will end up proving quite beneficial and informative. Can be combined in all sorts of ways and in many issues in life. So today we're going to apply a framework looking at time in three distinct segments: the past, the present, and the future. This shouldn't be too controversial. Past is what is behind us. The present is the present moment, is now. And then the future is what is ahead. We're going to walk through each one of these individually, and then we're going to wrap this episode with a visual metaphor that I like to think about these three components all together. So jumping into the past. The past is what has previously occurred, what is behind us in terms of time. I acknowledge and understand that the past, more than anything else, impacts our present mental state, present emotions, our life circumstances. The past is critically important to the present, though through this episode I'm going to propose that we both think more critically and think less often about the past. A key assumption I hold, I would really say this is a key conclusion, but I suppose it could be incorrect, so I'll say an assumption. A key assumption is that the past is unchangeable. And while this can be accepted on the face, implementing this and acting with this full understanding, not everyone always does. Sometimes, given the importance of the past, we can spend a lot of time thinking about the past and dwelling on it. The truth is that nothing we or anyone else or anything can change the past. We all have regrets and we all have unmet hopes. And regretfully, the past is unchangeable. From the perspective of now, the present, while the past once did exist, it no longer does. The past no longer does exist. The only remaining existence of the past is in the memories of conscious beings and in our individual and social happenstance that each of us find ourselves in this present moment. In all its immeasurable complexity, the past directly creates the present. The present is a direct byproduct of the past. And in this present moment, each one of us find ourselves in some set of circumstances, as a man or a woman, some sex, some gender, old or young, however you view yourself, in some country, speaking some language, in some position within a complex socioeconomic political system, with a range of interpersonal relationships and cultural influences. Each of us with a collection of pain and opportunity, a mix of fortune and injustice. We are all conscious humans. This is who we are in the present. And in terms of our memories of the past, our individual and collective understandings of the past is inevitably subject to distortion, bias, limited perspective, and a lack of knowledge. It behooves us to understand the past, to study history, study ourselves without bias, to see our own reflection as individuals and societies. But far more important than what happened in the past is about how we reflect upon the past. And our reflection of the past shapes our decisions and actions in the present. I think a seemingly bold yet obvious conclusion is that Our present actions are infinitely more important than any past action or consequence. And that's because the past is unchangeable. We live in the present, and the past is unchangeable. And while this all may make sense on the surface, it begs the question, now what? What do I do? How do I apply this in my life? On a personal level, I think it's actually quite simple. A little phrase I would just say is, learn, do not dwell. In terms of reflecting upon your own past, the past actions and events and consequences that have shaped your life, that have brought you to this present moment. Reflect on the past to learn lessons about the world, about yourself, about how your actions may lead to consequences, how others' actions will lead to consequences. Distill lessons from these experiences. And I think it's worthwhile to think about the past to that degree. But then the second component, learn, do not dwell. Beyond that, I don't think there is any utility in thinking about the past. Thinking about the past beyond the point at which you internalize the lessons is dwelling. Dwelling, by definition, is not beneficial. We've already extracted the lessons learned. When we dwell, we are often absorbed into the emotions of the past. Frankly, most commonly, the negative emotions. It brings negativity into the present. So on a personal level, I would say, try to learn from the past, but do not dwell on the past. Said concisely, the past is unchangeable. You are in the present, and your decisions and actions in this present moment will help shape the future. So if we want to transition out of thinking about the present, life is lived in the present. You will only ever experience life in the present moment. While the past has inexorably led to the present, we cannot change the past. We are not constrained by the past. We are not our past selves. We can choose today who we are, how we act, what we do. Every moment in the present, we are constantly reinventing ourselves, even if we are not changing. We decide and act in the present. I think in another conversation we could talk about free will. It's frankly not my most favorite topic. I do think meditation and a study of one's own thoughts can reveal interesting insights to the nature of our minds. For now, can we all agree that the illusion of free will exists? Whether or not free will is fundamentally true when we get down to the neurochemistry of it, future science will reveal. But I think in the present, we can definitively say that it feels like we have the ability to decide and the ability to choose our actions. So I suppose that's another assumption that this conversation holds, is that the illusion of free will exists. And I think this is actually a very important and fruitful assumption, because it creates two mutually desirable components. Free will, at least the illusion of free will, creates both freedom and accountability. If the illusion of free will exists, a person is free to choose. That is frankly the greatest gift anyone could have, is freedom of choice, is freedom, the ability to choose. And at the same time, with that ability to choose comes accountability for your choices, accountability for your decisions. I think there's beautiful harmony in the freedom and accountability pairing that comes with free will, or at least the illusion thereof. So we have the freedom to choose, which means we must make decisions. With choice comes decision. When deciding, when making decisions, we can express our preferences. We can set goals. We can think about the future. We can acknowledge and learn from the past. We can take accountability for our past actions and become better people. Better people, how each of us define it for ourselves. We can become those better people through our present decisions and actions. And this takes us to the future. The future is the pending present. It is time ahead. And just as the past inexorably has led to the present, our present actions and decisions will shape the future. We are here in the present, and the future, from our perspective, does not yet exist. Through our actions and decisions in the present, we can shape the future. At the same time, each of us only can control our own actions and decisions. So we don't have total control over the future. This topic actually hints at what will become its own episode, a discussion about distinguishing what we can and can't control. I look forward to having that conversation quite soon. But we'll leave it right there. So our actions can influence the future, but we can't control it entirely. Studying time reveals a paradox related to the future. It's that the future does not yet exist. Yet at the same time, the future can be predicted. Not perfectly predicted, but better than random. The future can be predicted. And this reveals the discovery of a key tool for decision-making, a tool I like to call probabilistic decision-making. This too will get its own episode, so I will just touch on it today. But concisely, I will just say, when making decisions, you can assess likely outcomes using probability. Given the predictability, the partial predictability of the future, this can improve your decision-making. Just as a nerdy aside, I'm actually encouraged by this paradoxical framework because it conforms well with our current understanding of physics. Quantum mechanics works according to probabilities. At the most fundamental level of physics, we understand our universe to be made up of waves rather than particles, waves that behave probabilistically. This sense that the future occurs probabilistically conforms to our science. The future does not yet exist. Your actions and decisions in the present can shape the future, and the future can be predicted. Together, we can shape the future. Okay, so that was a pretty good high-level overview of the past, the present, and the future. The discussion on each bled a little bit into the others, but I think that kind of reveals the interconnectedness of these concepts. And to put it all together, I like to have a visual metaphor that I think about to illustrate time to me. There's three components. There's the past, which is a line, a curved and wild line. There's the present, which is a point, a dot. And then there is the future, which is a cone. So we are in the present. We are at that dot, that point. That is where we are, always in the present. Looking backwards to the past, there is a curved and wild line, erratic and complex, reflecting all the past events that have led to where we are today. Notably, there is a single path back. It's a single line tracing back the past. And then we have the future. The future is a cone projecting into infinite possibility into the future. And as cones do, they start narrow and then widen. So the cone of possibility for what may happen in the next minute or next hour or next day may be relatively narrow. In only a short while, the cone of possibility bends towards infinity, and anything that is physically possible becomes possible in the future. So there's this curved and wild line of the past. There is this point in the present where we are, where we make decisions, where we experience love, where we experience all emotion, where we live our conscious lives. And then there is the cone of opportunity into the future. This visual metaphor, as simple as it may be, helps to remind me of the discussion and assumptions we just discussed earlier in this episode. Okay, I think that's a pretty good wrap for today. I feel like we did a pretty good job here time is one of my favorite concepts. I think it's one of the most useful frameworks we will discuss. So I hope I did it justice. And if I didn't, I will improve in the future. Please share feedback. I'd love to hear from you. We'll talk again soon. Thanks very much.